Streaming live across the country, tackling the topics everyone is talking about online. Share, engage, and interact. This is Newsfeed Now.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and welcome to Newsfeed Now. It's the eve of Christmas Eve. And today we're going to look at the top trending stories to start your day off right. I'm Hillary Hunt. In today's show, we're going to have the latest on the coronavirus, including a new strain that's causing a lot of concern in England, and a farewell speech that caught the eyes of so many across the country. And a country star, one of my favorite country stars at that, surprises a teen, and it's a good one. But of course, we have to start with what everyone's talking about right now, this new strain of the coronavirus. And British health officials say it is out of control in England, with nearly 50% of an increase in cases there in just 1 week. The virus has triggered travel restrictions ahead of the big holiday. Brian Eaton has more on the new strain.
Long lines inside London train stations and at Heathrow Airport as people line up to leave the city. London going into lockdown after the health secretary said a new strain of the coronavirus is out of control in the city. Experts say early evidence indicates the strain is not more lethal, but maybe about 70% more contagious.
This new variant not only moves fast, it is increased in terms of its ability to transmit, but it is becoming the dominant variant. It is beating all the others in terms of transmission. So this virus transmits and spreads fast.
More than 100 countries have banned travelers from the United Kingdom, but direct flights from London into U.S. cities like New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, and Miami continued as normal. We talked to passengers after they landed at MIA. What's it like in London right now?
Well, it's in lockdown, so everything's closed and no one's really moving anywhere.
Do you plan to quarantine now that you're back?
Of course, we'll follow the rules. But it is quite chaotic. There's a lot, like everything was shutting down, people were like panicking, so yeah, it was pretty bad.
Were you nervous about whether you'd be able to make it here to the U.S.?
I was constantly checking my flights, yeah, definitely. But I think that's probably one of the last couple of ones that are going to get to the U.S. now, yeah.
Some countries that have not outright banned travelers from England are requiring them to quarantine. In Germany, passengers had to spend the night in the airport waiting for a negative test result. Experts say all viruses naturally evolve as they move through the population, so what's happening in England does not come as a total surprise.
The new strain is more transmissible. If there's one piece of good news, it doesn't appear so far that it causes any worsening of the disease, which is important. And as far as we know at this stage, the vaccines should still work against it, but it's a difficult time.
There's actually a new study this morning that identifies which characteristics increase the risk of dying from COVID-19. So listen to this. Researchers looked at nearly 67,000 COVID patients in more than 600 hospitals. Men had a 30% higher risk of death compared to women of the same age and health. Patients who were obese or had higher blood pressure were also likely to die from the virus. But experts say this information can really help doctors make better treatment decisions for those higher risk patients. And guys, the holiday season's upon us. A lot of people still planning to travel or get together with family and friends for Christmas. But doctors say you really need to plan ahead if you're going to do this. This means taking those proper precautions to make sure everyone stays safe. You don't want to send anyone sick, send anyone home sick after those gatherings. So if you are playing hostess with the mostest for that holiday party, doctors encourage you to really set the tone in advance. It's best to limit it 10 people or less. If you have people who live in different households, make sure you are social distancing. Just get a really big table. And make sure everyone wears a mask, including the host. It can be fun and festive, so get a cool one. And speaking of those masks, a new Harris poll shows most Americans would support a nationwide mask mandate. It shows 75% of the public approves of a mask mandate, as well as required testing for people with symptoms. About 2/3 think there should be a ban on gatherings for more than 10 people. The poll also shows less than 60% believe non-essential businesses like restaurants and gyms should temporarily close. And one of the biggest questions a lot of you have right now is whether you need to wear a mask if you get that vaccine. Here's the thing. The answer is yes, at least until the majority of people have gotten the vaccine, which isn't right now. There are still questions about how the vaccine protects against the virus. So doctors say It's better to be safe than sorry. You know, the dog on your screen right now, not wearing his mask, he's got to get one. Well, the Department of Homeland Security wants to warn the public that criminal organizations are still trying to financially profit from the pandemic now by pushing out and selling counterfeit COVID-19 vaccines. I know it seems weird, but it's happening. Washington correspondent Alexandra Limon reports on what you need to know.
You have the chance to avoid anticipated long lines and get a single dose of the Pfizer COVID vaccine sent to your home for a one-time payment of $79.99.
Whenever there is a demand for something, there will be nefarious people who produce counterfeit products.
The U.S. Surgeon General says that now includes counterfeit COVID-19 vaccines. The Department of Homeland Security says over the past 9 months, it's received tips about criminal organizations trying to sell fake coronavirus vaccines and treatments.
This is something that FDA has been involved in from the beginning.
FDA Commissioner Dr. Stephen Hahn says the FDA is working to fight the counterfeiters.
It is an unfortunate thing that has occurred. We spend a lot of time educating consumers about this.
And this is important. Authorities say you shouldn't try to buy or obtain the COVID-19 vaccine online.
A vaccine is a medication, and you should never take a medication from anyone who is not a licensed provider, whether that's a doctor, a nurse, or a pharmacist.
The state authorities and the local authorities who are administering are the ones that people in America should go to. Be very wary of anyone else who's claiming that they have access to that vaccine.
The Department of Homeland Security launched Operation Stolen Promise 2.0 to crack down on attempts to sell fake vaccines, and they're asking everyone to report suspicious activity. In Washington, Alexandra Limon.
I mean, come on, guys, use common sense too. They're not mailing you a vaccine. Let's get real. What punks? And 4 sisters over in Germany used the boredom of the pandemic to come up with something kind of cool. I want to get my hands on this. They made a board game called Corona: The Rush to the Stores. They actually have a toilet paper card too. The sisters didn't expect those big sales, but now they can hardly keep up with all the shipping orders. They've sold more than 2,000 of these games and are working on a second edition. See the toilet paper card? I get why people want to buy that. Now to our nation's capital. It has been months in the making, kind of a sigh of relief, I'm sure, for many lawmakers. But after continuous back and forth between those lawmakers, the next COVID-19 relief bill is on its way to the president's desk. Both the House and the Senate passed a stimulus package overnight. Here's what you need to know. Let's take a look at what is included in this huge bill. $900 billion to be exact. It includes those direct payments of $600 for people making less than $75,000 a year. $1,200 for couples making less than $150,000, and you get $600 per kid. There's also another $300 per week in unemployment benefits, as well as $325 billion for our beloved small businesses, as well as some other funding. And as you can imagine, some people are divided on the $600 direct payments because they were a lot bigger before. Some say it's just not enough, but others say that doesn't make up for the months of lost money they've seen because of the pandemic. Lawmakers say they're optimistic that this is just a temporary fix and that more relief efforts will be discussed in the next session. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin says you can expect to get those stimulus checks as early as next week. You could say a post-Merry Christmas or Happy New Year for you. President Trump's re-election campaign filed another petition asking for the Supreme Court to effectively reverse the outcome of the presidential election in Pennsylvania this time. It specifically asked the justices to reverse 3 decisions from Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Those decisions actually ease some of the state's election rules on signature verification, election day observation, and those controversial mail-in ballot declarations. The challenge follows a similar suit by Texas, which the justices actually refused to hear earlier this month. And hey, we're all saying it. Cheers to the future. Cheers to 2021. Well, South Carolina Representative Joe Cunningham says goodbye to his colleagues in the House after one term. Republican Nancy Mace will soon be taking over his seat in Congress. Katie Turner from WCBD in Charleston talked to Cunningham about his very unique farewell in Washington. You want to see this.
Social media is buzzing right now after Cunningham ended his speech by cracking open a beer and making a toast. Now take a listen to this.
The spirit of the bipartisanship and cooperation, I raise this glass to my colleagues, both Democrats and Republicans. I yield back.
You heard it, a toast of both Democrats and Republicans. Cunningham says his grandfather believed that you could get through any problem if you sit down with someone and have a beer. His hope now is that Americans will be able to put aside their differences and come together regardless of party. Among his biggest wins over the last 2 years have been bipartisan efforts to fight for the environment. He was part of key legislation to help protect marine wildlife and prevent offshore drilling along the East Coast. Cunningham says he has been working on this speech for weeks, and the toast was a last-minute addition.
The point of it, though, was to highlight that folks can get along, and you know, if we sit down and we listen to each other, maybe even have a beer, we can find a lot of common ground to work off of. And I just don't think that there's enough of that in Washington, D.C.
The name of that beer goes hand in hand with Cunningham's message. It's called Joint Resolution, and it's brewed not far from the Capitol in Washington, D.C. For now.
Now we want to bring in Katie Turner, joining us from Charleston, South Carolina. And he's from South Carolina. You know, I feel like a toast is a true Southern tradition. What do you have to say about that? He pulled it out of his pocket, but he didn't take a sip of it.
Well, he was wearing his mask. He did say that's why he couldn't take a sip, obviously. But when I was talking to Joe about it, he said that he kind of made the decision last minute. He wasn't planning on bringing the beer, but he felt like the theatrics of it would really add to what he was trying to say, you know, the toast to both sides. And he was hoping that he could pick a beer from South Carolina because he's a very big supporter of local breweries here, but he did choose that beer from D.C. It was last minute, but I think the message still got across.
Yeah, and Katie, no pun intended here when you say the buzz is all over social media right now. I got to know what people are saying in response to that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in the South are loving it.
Oh, of course. It's just fun and lighthearted, and it goes along with the theme of kind of how he is. You know, he tried to bring that six-pack that one time, so he's kind of known for that. And he's also known for being the freshman. But really down here, we love a good toast. We love cheersing to the future, and I think his message was really just a great one.
Yeah, one we can all learn from. But cheers to 2021. Katie Turner out of Charleston, South Carolina. Thanks so much, Katie. Now let's move on to Santa Claus himself. He had a little bit of a mishap on the way to visiting some kids. Firefighters actually had to come to Old St. Nick's aid. You got to look at this. I mean, he flew into a power line near 7th Avenue in Rio Linda. Wow. Not the best flyer there. He was delivering, we're told, some candy canes to kids. This was a pre-flight crash, obviously. He just wanted to practice for the real day. Firefighters say about 200 people in the area lost power because of him following that crash. Steve's like, wow. That's his hometown. Wow. Steve behind the camera, his hometown, and Santa got a little tangled up, you could say. But we are happy to report he was able to walk away safely. We are told Santa is ready to go for Christmas and Christmas Eve. So, you know, hopefully he's just relaxing a little. No more flights there. But you know what he is doing right now? He's getting relaxed by swimming around. Santa doesn't just, you know, spread joy in the air. He also does it underwater too. The Jolly Man himself and one of his elves made a visit to Key Largo, Florida on Monday. He had to work on his suntan, obviously. They used some underwater sleds to scoot through schools of fish and stop to take some pictures. Of course, it was actually a fundraiser for a local children's charity. I love it. That's so awesome. Well, with the coronavirus outbreak, there are a lot of families that aren't able to see their loved ones because they're in nursing homes right now. But that didn't stop them from getting really creative. I love stories like this. Blake Brown shows us how one couple is turning music and their favorite song to stay connected.
Jerry Perkins sings to his wife Louise of nearly 65 years while standing outside her room at Oakwood Nursing Home in Bay Minette.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy.
Louise has been in the nursing home for 1,083 days, and for the first time, Jerry has had no physical contact with his 83-year-old wife.
So please don't take my sunshine away. Did you know you my sunshine? Even at nighttime, you my sunshine.
Jerry and his daughter Sandra were able to communicate through a window this week. The threat of coronavirus has put a wall up between loved ones.
She's got dementia, but going in there to see her and to be able just to be the glass apart from us was very encouraging to us to be able to see her.
She says it's been a tough time for her mom, and even though the current situation might not be ideal, she's just glad her family can be together.
I think it was confusing to her yesterday to see us outside the door and not to walk through the door, you know, not to come through the window or go around to the door and come on in.
We love you with all our hearts, baby. You know we're praying for you, don't you, baby? Jesus loves you and we love you too.
We all need to find a love like that. What a great partner, Jerry, there. I just almost cried watching that. But before we go, another sweet story. A country singer surprises a Utah teen with a brand new SUV. But here's the thing. This was after she had a double amputation surgery following a really serious crash. Sarah, she's a 17-year-old from Syracuse, Utah, was gifted with a brand new handicap accessible SUV by that guy himself, her favorite country singer, Russell Dickerson. Sarah was tragically injured after she was hit head-on by a drunk driver. You see her right there when she got that surprise. Oh my gosh, this all happened. She was in the accident on July 30th, but as a result of that crash, she was paralyzed from the waist down, forcing the doctors to amputate her legs. But I love a story like this. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love that so much. Way to go. You see him right there, Russell Dickerson, surprising that teen. Very well deserved by her, and I'm glad that he could find her and help her and her family out. Oh, that's so awesome. Thanks so much for joining us for Newsfeed Now. We're going to take a look at the top trending stories you need to know to start your day. Same place, same time tomorrow. I hope you have a great Tuesday and join us tomorrow. Bye.